Representative Lipinski for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sitting here in front of the family of a victim of one of the crashes of a 737 MAX and looking at the pictures of the victims, it's crystal clear that what the responsibility of the FAA, the NTSB, and our committee is right now. We need to get to the bottom of what happened so we can do whatever we can to ensure the safety of air passengers. And from what we know so far, it seems to me at least, although there sounds like there have been other factors, but it seems that something went wrong with the FAA's safety certification of the 737 MAX, and 346 people died. We need to figure out what went wrong. If it was the certification process itself, we need to fix it to avoid a repeat. If it was the problem with the lack of compliance with the process, then we have to hold accountable whoever it was that was not compliant, the FAA and or Boeing. In addition, further steps must be taken to ensure compliance. Now, this is not a legal proceeding here, and I know that we're in the early stages of the investigation of the crashes and the certification of the MAX. But stories we've heard about the process of certification so far are troubling. The guiding principle of the FAA and manufacturers must be safety, not getting a highly valued plane out more quickly. A question was raised earlier by Chairman DeFazio about why the 737 MAX was not required to get its own type certificate. To me, this is very troubling. It seems to me that because it didn't have to get its own type certificate, it could move more quickly through the process. Now, I'm not a pilot, and I'll defer to the pilots on this committee when it comes to issues of their experience as pilots, but I am a mechanical engineer. I know that this plane, Boeing needed to compete with Airbus. In order to have a more fuel-efficient planes, they put new engines on the plane. The engines had to be put further forward on the wings. These changes in aerodynamics caused the need for the MCAS system. And it seems to me that the MCAS system fundamentally changes the way the Boeing 737 flies. How is this not a major change that required a new type certificate?
Well, thank you for that question, Mr. Lipinski, and I'm glad you asked it because, and I appreciate that you're an engineer. Actually, the MCAS was put into the 737 MAX for the opposite reason. It doesn't make it fly differently. The MCAS was designed into the airplane to make it fly and feel for the pilots exactly like the NG.
Yes, but it was a change. It was a fundamental change to how it flies. I understand it was put in there to try to make it fly the same way, but the system itself was a change.
So the MCAS was added to a system that is on the NG called the speed trim system. It is, and I'm not an engineer, but it is a layer below, a software layer below the speed trim system. And as you said, the MCAS was put in because the engines brought the CG a little bit forward on the airplane. The test flights demonstrated that in a high angle of attack regime, the yoke didn't feel the same to the pilots as the NG. The MCAS pushed the nose over so that controllability and the feel in the yoke would be the same. And the flight test pilots deemed that it was identical, and then the Flight Standardization Board pilots, which were actually line pilots that we enlisted to fly both planes, came to the same conclusion.
Well, I'm hopeful that this was not a situation where the desire was just to get the plane out more quickly, that it wasn't a situation where safety was not the priority, because that must be the priority. As I said, for the FAA, for the manufacturer, safety must be the priority. I understand how important Boeing is an American company, but safety must always come first.
Sir, I
You yield back.
couldn't agree more. Thank you, sir.
Representative